Hey guys, welcome to the Touchdown Table. I'm Ryan, that's Tyler, that's Jordan.
And today, the NFL honors have already happened specifically. We've already seen all those awards. But today, I started with today, but really, that was waiting for now. I usually don't do these intros, so I'm getting a little excited right now. But today, we are doing our own kind of NFL honors type thing, per se. We have our own awards, some that we made up, some that are actual NFL honors ones that we thought were wrong, and we wanted to see what the table's opinion on it was. And we'll start with those two that we thought were wrong, and then we have three ones that we made up ourselves. Or actually, no, I think there is one of them that actually is one, but I never saw it. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Anyways, we'll see what happens.
Should we just read off our top five, and then you just tell us who won it with based on the point system?
It's not just top. I mean, you could do that, I guess.
It's based off the point system.
Okay, yeah. So, I guess we'll all separately read off our top five. Tyler, you start first. We'll go left to right.
And this is for Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Yes.
Okay. Josh Jacobs, A.J. Brown, Kyler Murray, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel.
For my Offensive Rookie of the Year, I had Josh Jacobs, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Miles Sanders, and Kyler Murray.
And for mine, I had Josh Jacobs, A.J. Brown, Kyler Murray, Miles Sanders, and DK Metcalf. So we are doing this kind of like Heisman or AP poll style. I think that's how AP polls work, right? They do the same thing?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So we have given if you get number 1, you get 5 points, 2, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, and 1, 1. So we added up all the points based on where we all had them to get our rank put all together. So for Offensive Rookie of the Year, Josh Jacobs.
We all picked him at once. That one's kind of obvious.
Yes, Josh Jacobs was obvious for us. We all picked him at 1. He has 15. He won unanimously, basically there. And then A.J. Brown was next with 12. Then Kyler Murray with 7. DK Metcalf with 6. Miles Sanders with 4. And bring up the rear is Deebo Samuel with 1. All right, next one, let's do Coach of the Year, unless you want to talk about that.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because what we were saying and why we decided to do this exact award was because we don't think they got it right. We understand that these awards generally go to quarterbacks, but Kyler Murray, and I know he had a good end of the season, but he just did not have the likes to beat players like Josh Jacobs and A.J. Brown.
You're absolutely right, and I have not been the biggest supporter of the whole Kyler Murray experiment. Literally, since before the draft, you go back to the earliest days of this channel, I was saying, don't do this Kyler Murray thing, Cliff Kingsbury, even though I don't like Cliff Kingsbury personally. We kind of have beef because I just don't agree with the way he runs the football team. But it's okay, Cliff, you're the head coach. He runs an offense. But when I saw this, because, the NFL Instagram just can't wait until the NFL honors air to post. They got to spoil it for us, but hey, that's fine. But when I saw this,
it's not.
I thought it was. Annoying. I was being sarcastic. I thought it was. I thought it was a meme page. I could not believe it because I thought this was a 2-player race for this award between Josh Jacobs and A.J. Brown. Kyler's not even in my top 3 because he just didn't do anything spectacular. This dude was the number 1 pick, and you have to take that into account because guys like A.J. Brown, people thought this receiver class could go so many different ways. A.J. Brown and Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is a running back, but he carried the load for them. Those are the only 2 in consideration.
Yeah, and one last thing before we go on to the second one. I actually predicted this to happen. I still don't agree with it, so...
He predicted it to happen before the season. It was, I think, our first ever video on this channel. You go scroll down all the way down and see it. Oh, yeah. We don't even have our intro or anything. We don't have any of this other stuff.
We've come a long way.
We have come a long way, but I think
still got the
prediction video that he predicted that in. It was definitely near the first, but I'm pretty sure it was the first.
I think it was the first one.
I agree with everything they said about how Kyler Murray should have won, and it should have been Josh Jacobs and A.J. Brown, and we all said Josh Jacobs. All right, next one, we'll do Coach of the Year. We'll start with you, Tyler.
All right, number 1, I had Kyle Shanahan. 2, Mike Vrabel. 3, John Harbaugh, who actually won it. 4, Mike Tomlin, and 5, Brian Flores.
All right, Ryan, you're up.
For Coach of the Year, I had number 1, Mike Vrabel. Number 2, Kyle Shanahan. Number 3, Matt LaFleur. Number 4, John Harbaugh. And number 5, Brian Flores.
And for me, I started with Mike Vrabel. Then I had 2, Kyle Shanahan. At 3, John Harbaugh. At 4, Brian Flores. And at 5, Mike Tomlin. So when he added those all up together, Mike Vrabel ended up winning for us at the table since me and Ryan both had him. He had 14. Next was Kyle Shanahan with 13. Then it was John Harbaugh with 8. Ryan Flores with 4. Mike Tomlin and Matt LaFleur tied with 3. Anyone thoughts, Ryan? Yeah. I know you want to say something.
Once again, this is the reason why we decided to choose this one. Now let's agree with it. Me and Jordan had John Harbaugh at 3. Ryan had at 4, I think.
I did.
although we know the Ravens did a lot of good stuff, we actually talked about this earlier, and what I said was it was really their offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, who was the one that led that team to where they were because they built their offense around Lamar Jackson. John Harbaugh did a good job of coaching the guys, but he just happened to be put in a good situation with the MVP on his team.
I don't want to say he's spoiled, but it's almost what it kind of feels like, at least with this award. And I took a while to make this decision, but I picked Mike Vrabel because of the way that, one, he benched the first-round pick Marcus Mariota for Ryan Tannehill. And really, Ryan Tannehill, he didn't light it up every game, but Mike Vrabel found the way for his team to win with Tannehill. He made Derrick Henry into arguably the best running back in the league, in that, like, from week 15 on, you can make an argument for that. He found the way that his team could win, and he took a 6 seed. He beat the Patriots. He beat John Harbaugh's Ravens in Baltimore, which makes this even more confusing for me. He just found a way for his team to win, but honestly, most of all, you saw him pre-game warming up with his players like he was a player, like literally like he was like blocking his guys. Like if he had a uniform on, you would not be able to tell that he was not a player. He's just a great players coach, well respected in the locker room. Close between him and Shanahan, but I give it to Mike.
Yeah, and I just picked Shanahan because he was able to turn that team around in one season. So
yeah, and I had Shanahan, but then Ryan kind of told me what he said. He convinced me to put Mike Vrabel at 1, so he's number 1 on our list. All right, let's move on to the next one as we try to go quickly. We have we made up our own one. Playoff MVP. So this is self-explanatory. The MVP of the playoffs, not just the Super Bowl. But who knows? We'll see if the Super Bowl MVP won the actual MVP for the playoffs. But we'll get to that in a second. Tyler.
1 Derrick Henry, 2 Patrick Mahomes, 3 Raheem Mostert, 4 Travis Kelce, 5 Deebo Samuel.
It's not what you told me. I had that mixed up.
Well,
that's what I have on here.
All right. Well, should I go?
I don't think it would change anything that dramatically, but yeah, go ahead.
All right, I put Patrick Mahomes at number 1 for playoff MVP, followed by Derrick Henry, 3 Raheem Mostert, 4 Travis Kelce, 5 Sammy Watkins.
You had Travis Kelce at 4?
Yes.
Okay. I had Derrick Henry, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Raheem Mostert, and Deebo Samuel. So, I'm just going to try to do the quick calculations in my head, but I'll name off the easy ones first. So we had Derrick Henry. He won the MVP of the playoffs with 14 votes. Bringing up right behind him was Patrick Mahomes with 13. Then it was Raheem Mostert with 8. And then I believe once this is switched, Travis Kelce would have had 7. So right behind Raheem Mostert. And then Deebo Samuel would have had 2. And Sammy Watkins would have had 1. Any thoughts on this?
Well, you guys both picked Henry at 1, so you guys go first.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, although Patrick Mahomes, I know what he did with all the comebacks, but at the same point, it really just
3 of them.
They got themselves in that position, and as a quarterback playing in the playoffs, I know it's cool to say, "Oh, we came back from 24, then 10 twice," but you put yourself in that position. And with Derrick Henry, he was really leading his team, the most valuable player on that team. Without him, I don't think they beat the Patriots. I don't think they even come close to beating the Ravens.
You want to add in on Henry? Or?
No, I'll let you guys go.
Well,
I don't want to talk too much.
I'll just say my thing for Mahomes. This was really close, but I just looked at really the way he just established himself as the face of this league throughout the postseason and capped it off with the Super Bowl win. I think just even though, like, sure, you could say they got off to bad starts, you look at that, for example, the AFC divisional game against the Texans, that wasn't like he was playing horrible. His offensive line wasn't playing good in the beginning. There were some key special teams errors by the Chiefs in the beginning, and he still threw 5 touchdown passes in that game, so he probably would have been MVP of that game when it was all said and done. AFC Championship, I think that was really a time where Patrick Mahomes was able to just do it again, and then he capped it off with the Super Bowl. Really close. I see your argument, but I just felt I should give it to the Super Bowl.
It was close. It was close.
All right, let's move on to our next one. We also made up this category. This was the upset game of the year. Tyler, we'll start with you as we have been.
Number 1, I put Titans over the Ravens. 2 was Dolphins over Patriots. 3 was Falcons over 49ers. 4 was Falcons over Saints. And 5 was Vikings over Saints.
My number 1 for upset of the year was the Dolphins over the Patriots, followed by Falcons over Saints. The Falcons again over the 49ers. Then Titans over the Ravens, and then the Denver Broncos over the Texans.
And mine, I originally had Tennessee over Baltimore, but I switched that to Miami over New England. Then next is Tennessee over Baltimore, followed by Atlanta over San Francisco, Minnesota over New Orleans, and finally Atlanta over New Orleans. So we tally them up. The upset game of the year for us was Miami versus New England with 14 votes. Next was Tennessee versus Baltimore with 11 votes. Then Atlanta versus San Francisco with 9. And then Atlanta versus New Orleans with 7. Minnesota versus New Orleans with 3. And I almost said Tennessee.
You did say, you said Dennis. If your name's Dennis and you're watching, hi.
Hi, Dennis.
Hey, Dennis.
Then Denver versus Houston. Last one with 1 vote from Ryan.
Yeah, I think once again these were close. I really don't think many of these were far away from each other. But the reason I chose the Titans over the Ravens was because the Ravens had such a hot streak and they're winning so many games. And even when they didn't have their starters in the last weeks of the season, they were still winning games. They were just so dominant. I know the Titans were just coming off a good win themselves. And the Dolphins were not expected to beat the Patriots at all. And it was a huge upset. But for a team that last lost on September 29th, I believe, before that playoff game.
That's correct.
I was shocked to see it happen, and in the way that it did. It wasn't like it was an extremely close game either.
Well, I was shocked to see it happen, but you look at that game was between 2 playoff teams and 1 playoff team that was coming off really a statement win, and I think, yes, the Ravens were favored, but I think, people were at least acknowledging the possibility of Tennessee, and again, it's 2 playoff teams, so it's not like one team was, horrible. And then you look at this Dolphins-Patriots game, the one that I picked, I just remember, the score ticker is oh, wow, the Patriots and the Dolphins are tied, and it's the first quarter. Second quarter, they're still tied. Third quarter, I'm all right, I'm turning this game on. And, yeah, it was just crazy to see Ryan Fitzpatrick go into Gillette Stadium, and this is, normally the Patriots are 13-2 and just lose because they have nothing to play for, but they had the lock of a first-round bye, and honestly, you could say this not only knocked the Patriots out, really contributed to possibly ending the Patriots dynasty. I think it was a bigger upset because it's not like the Titans Ravens where it was a playoff game, 2 decent teams. And also, honestly, this moved Kansas City up to the 2 seed, so you can theoretically say that Ryan Fitzpatrick helped the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. I mean, indirectly, but he shook up
I still
the
think
AFC
they would have
playoffs.
got there.
I do too, but just their road would have been a lot tougher. They would have been a lot more battle tested. But your argument is good as well.
All right, seems like we're done with that one. We'll move on to our last one. This one is one that I said it might be a thing, but I don't remember seeing it. It is Game of the Year.
It should be a thing. I don't think it's a thing.
This one was not as close to me. There was one that really stood out above the other ones, although we had some good games this year. Number 1, I said the Saints and 49ers. 2 was the first game against the 49ers and the Seahawks. 3 was the second game with the 49ers and the Seahawks. 4 was the Ravens and 49ers. And 5 was the Chiefs and 49ers Super Bowl, all involving the 49ers. Just happened to be that way.
I had the same top 2 as you did. I had San Francisco, New Orleans at 1, followed by the first time Seattle played San Francisco, the one that Seattle won. Then at 3, I had Saints Texans week 1 on Monday Night Football, if you don't remember. Then I had the Texans versus Bills playoff game, and then I had the second meeting between the Niners and Seahawks that the Niners won.
My first one was different than their first ones. I had the first 49ers versus Seahawks one. Next, I had New Orleans versus San Francisco. Then the second 49ers Seahawks one. Then Baltimore versus San Francisco. And finally, New Orleans versus Houston. It could be quite possible that if I was thinking about it more, I might switch up the last 2, but that's how it is now, and that's how the rankings are. But those last ones don't matter as much anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I don't think it would really actually might create a tie, but who cares?
That's how you have it.
I have it down, so that's how we're doing it. Who won this one? The game of the year at the table was New Orleans versus San Francisco, and a very good bet to do it. I didn't pick it. I'll explain why after this. Next one was one that I picked, the first game between San Francisco and Seattle. That one had 13. The first one had 14. I don't remember if I said that. Next game was San Francisco versus Seattle. Again, the second one, that one had 7. Then Baltimore versus San Francisco, who had 4. Then New Orleans versus Houston, who had 4. So if I changed it, that actually would change those 2 around. Next one is Houston versus Buffalo, who had 2. And finally, the Super Bowl Kansas City versus 49ers that had 1. But it is good that one is mentioned on that list. So you guys said New Orleans versus San Francisco, and obviously that was a great game. It was a huge topic when it happened. But the reason that I just really liked that first San Francisco-Seattle game was that it went back and forth between divisional rivals. Every time you thought something was happening, the opposite happened. That's when Russell Wilson was in his MVP run. That's when Jadeveon Clowney put up a great game. It went to overtime. There were a lot of there was a missed field goal that gave Seattle the ball. There was just so much that happened in that game. If you go back and watch the highlights of that game, especially the fourth quarter and overtime, it was just crazy. And I understand that New Orleans versus San Francisco. That was a huge game that determined a lot, especially in playoffs and stuff too. But this was also San Francisco's first loss. I believe they went 9-0 before this game, and then they lost to their division rivals, you could say, the Seahawks. So I just thought that was a better game overall. Maybe a more important game with San Francisco versus New Orleans, but in my mind, those are very close. I just enjoyed watching the whole game of San Francisco versus Seattle rather than just the last play. Which obviously was a good game overall, but since there was so much scoring. But yeah, that's my opinion on it.
Well, I see your point, and I understand that was a good game, and I agree that it was a good game. I had it at number 2. But with the Saints and 49ers, I believe these were the two best teams in the NFC, and I know the Packers got the 2 seed, and the Saints were at the 3, and they were eliminated early from the playoffs, and the Niners made the Super Bowl and lost. But I still think these are the two best teams in the NFC going up against each other in a shootout. And after that game, that was when everyone really started to say, oh my gosh, we have to start paying attention to the 49ers because they just went into the Superdome and beat one of the toughest teams to beat in the NFL. It was really fun to watch. And the way it ended, too, with the George Kittle destruction to get that big yardage, it was just really cool and really fun to watch from a fan's perspective.
I agree with you.
Okay, so that's all of the awards, I believe, right, Jordan? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's going to be it. We just want to do something a little fun. Wanted to include some from the actual awards that we wanted to get right and made up some of our own. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and please comment. You'll get a response if you do. And if you want to comment, my suggestion would be comment who you thought should have won any of these awards if we got anything wrong or if we missed out a player or a coach or a game or whatever it was. But once again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys later.
See ya.